Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Movies for Dumb Guys. I'm your host, Joe Johnson. And as always, I'm joined by Ryan Sharp.
Yippee-ki-yay.
Watch your language. And Tim Williams.
Can you dig it?
I was going to do that one.
I beat you.
Can you dig it? All right.
Beat you to it.
So, The Rock. On our last episode of Movies for Dumb Guys, I talked a little bit about The Rock fatigue. Our movie-going audiences a little burnout on The Rock. I saw a fact online that over the last 14 months, he has released 5 films, and then over the course of the next year or so, he's going to have another 4 films come out. So in the span of about 2 years, he will have released 9 movies. Like Elvis Presley didn't crank out that kind of crap back during his heyday. The Rock will have appeared in 9 movies in 2 years. So now this Towering Inferno Die Hard thing comes out, and Tanks at the box office came in third behind Hotel Transylvania 3 and Ant-Man
for the second week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, are we, does Rock, I mean, obviously there's nothing you can do about this next 4 movies coming out, but does he need to take a little vacation? Are we burnt out on The Rock a little bit? Brian?
I don't think so.
Yeah, you just can't get enough of The Rock?
I think this movie just wasn't appealing. I think it was a bad movie. Like
Trailers looked awful.
yeah, I just think the premise was bad. I think the trailers were bad, and I don't think before you mentioned Rock fatigue, I didn't even consider it. I mentioned it to a couple people today. They didn't consider it. They're like, no, I like The Rock. They had no fatigue. So I think it's just a terrible movie.
Symptom of the movie, not necessarily the star.
It's his
Tim?
Wild Wild West.
I've had rock
You agree?
fatigue ever since he beat Hulk Hogan back at WrestleMania 17 or whatever it was. I don't know which one it was, but
Yeah, you're not a fan in general, but
no, but I don't know. It's I think it might just be more of, and Rampage didn't do very well either, did it? Ultimately, I don't think it did very well.
No, I don't think it did very well overall.
I think it might just be the movie itself, the movies themselves, and not necessarily.
Now,
the Rock.
Jumanji did fairly well, but before that was Baywatch. Now, I thought Baywatch was funny, but man, that tanked at the box office. People did not want to see The Rock in a comedy.
Yeah. I don't know if I can really blame The Rock. I mean, do people still go to movies because of an actor?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm a big Tom Hanks fan, and if I know Tom Hanks is going to be in a movie, I try to make an effort to see it. But there have been movies where he's been the star, and I'm like, I'll pass on this one. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's actors that I like and stuff, but I don't really go based on that anymore. I go based more on who directed it.
I don't know if I ever based it on any of that. I see the trailer, and if I like what I see on the trailer, then I go see it. I don't care who's in it.
Yeah, I
or
agree.
who directed it or who wrote it. It's what do you put in front of me?
And then he's going to have his Fast and Furious spinoff, and then I assume he's going to appear in the next Fast and Furious movie, which got pushed back a year.
Isn't he going to be part of the DC universe too? Isn't he going to be Black Adam?
I think so. I think I heard something about that, but
How's he going to do all this when he's going to be president?
that too, him and Tom Hanks. So on that note, I decided to discuss our all-time favorite action movies. Now I know that's very broad, and so I started out with a large list, and then, as usual, I whittled it down and whittled it down and whittled it down until I came up with my 10 favorite action movies. Now, some of the things to help me whittle the list down. First thing I eliminated was classic films. There were a couple of classic films I thought about putting on my list, but I thought, no, I'm going to limit this list to movies I grew up with that I saw in theaters that had an impact on me growing up. Then I started eliminating certain genres because I feel like they're kind of in a genre of their own, like westerns and war pictures and even car chase movies. I thought about putting some car chase movies on my list, and I thought that's almost a genre of its own. So that allowed me to whittle things down and whittle things down until I came up with my top 10. Did you guys find yourselves in the same dilemma, trying to whittle down your list?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of movies out there that kind of are cross genres. You know, is it a comedy? Is it an action? Is it a drama? Is it a war movie? Is it a western? So there's things out there that a lot of people had on their list that I personally feel is in a different category. So I eliminated it based on that. I also kind of stayed away from movies that we've already kind of dissected and went through, and tried to make. I mean, there's some obvious ones that you have to put on the list, but then I tried to kind of mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, me too. Tim, did you struggle with this?
Yes, because I mean, I'm not a huge fan of this genre, really. Along with sports movies, but so a lot of mine originally were fell into more science fiction-y horror stuff, also. So I whittled it down as much as I could. I mean, a couple of them still made it through just because I had to put them on there, but overall, yeah, I feel the same way. It's a really big category that you could fit a lot of movies into.
Now, I'm the opposite of you. When I look at my 100 greatest movie list, probably the bulk of the movies on that list are action flicks, right up there with comedies. Comedies dominate my list. Action flicks are right up there. And so, taking a look at my 100 greatest movie list, number one, as regular listeners of this podcast would know, is my all-time favorite movie is Star Wars. And so I asked myself, if Star Wars is the number one movie on your all-time favorite movie list, does it qualify as an action flick? And if it is an action flick, how can it not be number one on your list of action movies? And so, after careful consideration,
The Force will be with you, always.
I had to make it number one on my list of action flicks. Now, what makes an action movie an action movie? Well, running and fighting and swordplay and gunfight and car chases and dog fights. And
Sounds like my last relationship.
Star Wars has just about all of that. It has the gunplay. It has the most exciting dogfight probably ever put to film. And I'm not talking about Michael Vick dogfight. I'm talking about an aerial combat over the Death Star, lightsaber battles. This movie has everything. Ryan, do you think Star Wars qualifies as an action flick?
No, I don't.
Why is that?
I don't. It's not that it's wrong. I just when you say Star Wars, I don't think action flick. I think like sci-fi fantasy.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I got those in my holster, mother scratcher.
Yeah,
So-
I know. So I don't. I think of it as fantasy. I think of it as
I know it's sci-fi, but like you said,
but that's the
action
dominant
can
one. How about
encompass.
yeah, it can, and I'm not arguing. Like I'm not challenging you on the fact, but for me, it's not. I don't. It's when I wrote these movies down. Most of these movies, I'm like, okay, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Boom, western. Boom, war movie. Boom, sci-fi movie. Okay, so that's not an action movie. So that's why I disagree.
Tim, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you ranked Star Wars pretty high on your list
Star Wars just did not make my list at all
because you don't qualify it as a action flick.
No, I don't.
That surprises me.
I mean, I guess you could put it in that category, but like I said, I tried to eliminate anything that is more. It's a bigger science fiction movie than it is an action movie, in my opinion. So I tried to eliminate those. But yeah, Star Wars obviously is one of, if not my favorite movie of all time. But I just didn't put that.
I think it meets all the requirements. So it is number one on my list. Now, I really think it's one of the greatest movies ever made. Touche, my friend. That is awesome. So if you take a look at my 100 greatest movie list and you see that Star Wars is at number one, number two on my list of greatest movies ever made is Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now, if either one of you argue that Raiders of the Lost Ark doesn't qualify as an action flick, I will leap over this table. Again, Raiders of the Lost Ark has all the elements, some of the most exciting scenes in the history of cinema. Here's an example of one.
I'm going after that truck. Oh, I don't know. I'm making this up as I go.
When he gets thrown out of that truck and goes underneath it and comes up from the back and climbs over, to me, that's one of the greatest moments in the history of movies. Of course, there's the iconic scene of him running from the boulder, which is just epic. This movie has it all. Again, gunplay, fights, chases, everything you would want in an action flick. Ryan.
Just the way you said that made me think of Saturday Night Live with Stefan. The hottest club in New York is
everything.
Is Indiana Jones. You have fedoras. You have whips.
You have whips. You have guys in turbans and a monkey.
Yeah. So I agree with you on this one. Maybe not number 2, but it did make my top 10. I'm still figuring out the order of my list, but it is on there. Definitely a classic film. Definitely an action movie. Lots of fun. A lot of action, a lot of comedy, and yeah, it had the iconic boulder scene, and they even made the attraction at Disney. So, and that's all action. That's all that is a little action sequence, and the boulder, of course, is a big part of that. So.
If Star Wars wasn't on this list, if somehow you guys talked me into knocking Star Wars off my action list, Raiders would get bumped up easily to number 1. Tim, do you agree? How high does Raiders rank on your list?
Yeah, I have that as number 2 as well. I just remember going to see it, and I didn't really. I mean, and I said it before, I'm not a huge fan of the Indiana Jones movies, but I remember just going to see that at the theater. My parents took me. I didn't really know a whole lot about it, but yeah, I mean, I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. I just thought, it was really amazing at the time. I mean, all the stuff that they did. So yeah, I'm right along with you at number 2.
All right, number 3 on my list. It's a movie we've discussed before, specifically on our greatest sequels of all time.
Come with me if you want to live.
Terminator 2. Again, when you look at all the elements of an action flick, Terminator 2 has it all. Some of the greatest special effects I've ever seen in a movie. The action is incredible when the liquid metal T-1000 is chasing John Connor. John Connor's on his little dirt bike. The semi-truck is chasing him down the L.A. River. Arnold comes in on his motorcycle. Amazing chases, amazing gunplay, amazing special effects. Easily one of the greatest action flicks ever made. Ryan, do you agree?
I do not agree.
Hasta la vista, baby.
And simply because I don't think you're like way off or anything. I don't think you made a ridiculous choice. I just don't. It didn't fall on my list. I'd much rather watch these movies that I have on my list as opposed to
I can't
to that
wait
movie.
to see what you got.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Tim, Terminator 2.
It did not make my top 10. I like that. I like that movie. But kind of like the Indiana Jones movies. I don't think I own them, and I don't really go back and watch them over and over or anything. But I remember seeing it at the theater and thinking it was amazing, and I liked it. But I don't know. There's just something about them that I just don't love. I don't know.
Surprises me. Number 4 on my list. I remember this is one of those memories I have of going into a theater, watching a movie on the screen, and having vivid memories of that theater experience. Because I remember when I came out of the theater, I looked at the world in a whole new way. Like the world looked different to me after seeing this movie.
Hear that, Mr. Anderson? That is the sound of inevitability. It is the sound of your death. Goodbye, Mr. Anderson. My name is Neo.
Man, that movie was so remarkable and so original and unlike anything I'd ever seen before it. The sequence where Neo and Trinity go into the building with all their weapons and the black bags, they got their leather and sunglasses on, and they go to rescue Morpheus, and they're doing the slow motion gunplay with the music playing in the background. Again, I think that's one of the most iconic scenes I've ever seen in a film. Um, that movie absolutely blew me away. I thought the sequel, Matrix Reloaded, I think it was the sequel. I thought that had some pretty remarkable scenes, some great freeway car chases and stuff like that. Unfortunately, the third one didn't quite live up. But man, the Matrix just made me love movies all over again, and why I love going to the theater and seeing them on the big screen. That movie just absolutely blew me away. Ryan, your thoughts on the Matrix?
Well, I've never seen The Matrix.
The first one?
Yeah, I've seen parts of it here and there. I may have seen it all, just not together. So I may have gotten all of it, but and I don't have a good reason for you. There's no reason that I'm. It's just one of those ones that slipped through, and then it was already being spoofed and made fun of, and bullet time and all that fun stuff. So I just never got around to it.
That really shocks the heck out of me, man. One of the greatest action
And,
flicks, sci-fi flicks.
And sometimes when
Ever
it gets that big, I lose interest in it. Like the hype's too much. And then
It's
like
the question that drives us, Neo. It's the question that brought you here.
What is the Matrix?
Tim, help me out here. What do you got?
I really liked The Matrix the first time when it was called Dark City.
Never saw Dark City. What is that?
That is the movie that The Matrix ripped off.
I was not aware of this. Tell me
Yeah.
more.
It is exactly, The Matrix is almost exactly like Dark City. I mean, besides, I don't think there was like the martial art stuff and, the slow motion stuff, but it is, storyline wise, it is almost the exact same thing, except instead of The Matrix, it's a dream world. Kiefer Sutherland's in it. I don't remember who all was in it, but yeah, it's well, I mean,
I'm assuming it wasn't a
probably-
big hit because I have never. You're like talking Greek to me.
It wasn't like a huge hit, but it was out maybe a couple years before, and the similarities are very strong.
All right. So on that, for that reason, it didn't make your top 10.
I was kind of like Ryan. I never saw it at the theater.
That surprises me.
And when I did, I thought it was okay. I mean, it was just I'd already seen Dark City, and I was just sitting there watching, thinking, this is a ripoff of Dark City the whole time.
Wow.
do you like it because you think that you actually are living in the Matrix?
It made me look at the world completely differently after seeing it. I wasn't aware of the computer simulation theory prior to seeing The Matrix. And then years later, after seeing The Matrix, I read some theory out there that we are living in a computer simulation, and it actually blew my mind. But yeah, that had nothing to do with loving the movie at the time because I didn't know that theory even existed. I just think it's just a remarkable movie. The action sequences, like they use that technique that we had never seen before, except I think it was used in a commercial or something, where they'd set up multiple cameras, and when the actor would leap in the air, the cameras appeared to rotate around the actor. And I mean, just that alone, when Trinity goes up and like holds that pose and the cameras rotate, I was in the theater like, oh my God, what was that? Like I had never seen anything like it. It just
What have those brothers done since then? Since that
turned into
trilogy?
women. That's pretty much it.
Well, I know the one did.
I think
but
both of them did.
They both have.
They both have like female names now, I think.
Movie wise, though, what have they done?
I don't know.
You don't need to do anything else after that.
Yeah,
I mean, guess
like
you
said,
don't need to,
they
but
went
it almost seems
downhill
like
each
it
one,
seems
but-
like they didn't have a plan, kind of like the Lost TV series. Like
Right.
they don't think it was going to be that big, so there was no future plans for it, and then they were kind of put on the spot where they had to create like sequels to it. And
Well, the third
They
one
didn't
was
hold up.
just
Was
talk about ripoffs. It was a story of Christ. I mean, the third one was just a story of Christ. That's all it was. The
I
Chosen
don't
One,
remember. I know
the
I've
one
seen
that's
them
right.
all. I don't really necessarily remember which was the one where they were in like the thing, and all the things they were in like a big like dome, and all these things were coming out, crawling all over, and it was just one big scene where they were just down shooting
That
at them.
might have
the
been
second
the
one or the
third one. I might have been the third one because there was just a lot of that in the third one. And
Matrix
Yeah,
Beyond
third one.
Thunderdome.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what it was like. Yeah.
But discounting the two sequels, the first one I think is one of the greatest movies ever made. Speaking of sequels, here's another sequel that came up on a recent discussion.
Get away from her, you bitch!
Aliens, the sequel to Alien, one of the most action-packed movies I've ever seen. Some people call it a war movie. Some of the most incredible action scenes, great dialogue, a worthy sequel of the first Alien, which was more of a horror movie. James Cameron doing his thing. Incredible performances, incredible lines, an unforgettable movie. Here's a line.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
The late, great Bill Paxton. Aliens. Come on, man. It's got to be one of the greatest action flicks ever made. Ryan, what do you got?
Not on my list.
Aliens?
Aliens. Not on my list.
I apologize to the listeners on your behalf.
I didn't like it. I didn't like the first. I'm not an Aliens guy, so
Wow, man.
why would I go waste my time when I could watch some other crappy movie
Wow.
like
Tim,
Rad?
Tim,
No,
help
no,
me
no.
out here, Tim.
No, it's not. When I think aliens, I do not think action movie. Even though it is an action movie, but these are not. This is not what I think of when I think of action movies.
What?
I
think
agree.
of
I agree.
science fiction. I think of horror. I think of monster movies. Stuff we've already covered, but I don't think of it as an action movie.
90%
It's
of
great
our
action.
listeners are they're screaming at their phone right now.
No, they're not.
Aliens
they're
is
agreeing
one of
with
the
us.
greatest action
You
flicks.
realize 90% is like 4 people.
I'm bad at
either
math.
Either way, though, that's just not what's.
Think
when I
about
think action
some of
movies,
those moments.
I'm not saying it's
man.
not great action, but it's just not an action movie.
Oh my god,
I agree.
that's a deal breaker right there, man. I would kick you out of bed for saying something like that. All right, so
I
that's
don't have to worry about being there.
that's my top 5 greatest action flicks ever made. Before I get to my bottom 5 of my list, let's throw it to Ryan. What? I'm dying to hear what is in your top
to
5
hear what's in my
that
top
we
5.
did not cover yet.
So I've just now at this moment decided that I'm not going to number these in chronological order.
Okay.
I'm just going to give you my top 5.
Okay.
And the first one on my list, make sure you have that sound clip ready.
I got my cursor over.
Yep, I
the
know.
button.
I know exactly what you got.
Let's hear it.
It's going to be Bad Boys. Go ahead. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Right. Yep, go ahead. Keep
Bad
booing.
Boys.
Keep booing. Yeah, Bad Boys.
Okay.
Have you ever watched it?
No.
No. Okay, so you can't say anything about it.
But when people discuss greatest action flicks ever made, Bad Boys is usually not part of the
Hey,
discussion.
this is my list, and this is movies for dumb guys.
All right.
This is a great action movie. It's funny. It's got packed full of action. And it was Michael Bay's first film, actually.
Oh, that's a testament.
Yeah, right.
That's what I was-
Exactly.
that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. It's cool that he started there, and I find it interesting.
That was his first movie?
His first movie. He made
Okay.
money with like commercials and
Oh, okay.
TV shows, but that was his first movie, his directorial debut. And the lead parts were initially intended for Eddie Murphy and Wesley Snipes, which I think that movie would have sucked.
No way.
I thought the chemistry that Will Smith and Martin Lawrence had on screen was great. They had some great running action scenes, blow them up, fight them up, shoot them up. Everything that you would want in a Johnson action movie. They had dogs barking. They had glass breaking. They had bullets flying. They had punches landing. So
Big explosions.
big
They
explosions.
have big
Will Smith
explosions.
with his shirt off. So lots of action. So yeah,
I can't criticize it because I've never seen it. And so like you, it's kind of shocking for me to say that I've never been sitting at home looking for something to watch and said, oh, Bad Boys is coming on and sat down and watch it. I've never been in that situation. I can't explain why I've never seen Bad Boys. Now, Bad Boys 2 has been in heavy rotation lately on cable TV. and I can't watch.
You'd be totally lost if you don't see the first one.
It was worse than the book, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But no, like Bad Boys 2, I turn it off after 15 minutes. I guess that's maybe why I have this sour opinion in my head is Bad Boys 2 is not worthy. And so
No
I
Bad Boys
promise
1.
you I'm going to give Bad Boys a shot, but it still shocks me that it's ranked so high.
Yeah, I mean, came out in '95. I was 17 or something at the time. It just everything kind of came together for me. I thought it was funny. I thought it was great. I watch it all the time. I love that movie, and it's on my list. So
I'll allow it.
Shut your mouth.
I don't know if I've ever watched it from beginning to end, but I will disagree with you saying that that it's not on a lot of people's list because I've heard a lot of people talk about it.
Yeah.
That like it. But I mean,
Okay.
like I said, I've never sat down and watched it from beginning to end. But it is more along the lines of action movie of what I think of, just from what I know of it, than the stuff that we've already talked about.
No, I mean I get that it's an action flick. I'm just surprised that it ranks so highly. So, all right. What
Well,
else you
again,
got?
that could be number 5. Remember, I'm not putting them in order.
I know, but still, your
The
top five.
All
Yeah.
right, yeah. So if you want to get that booing ready, one that didn't land on a lot of lists, The Last Boy Scout.
Doesn't
Doesn't
I,
know. What do I want to do here?
I did a scene with and I'm drawing a blank on his name. The guy who played D-Day in Animal House.
Bruce McGill.
Bruce McGill. And we discussed The Last Boy Scout. And I told him how much I enjoyed the scene when Bruce Willis comes home and he's got a gun aimed at the closet and he's like, I'm going to fire my gun and at the count of 5. And then Bruce McGill steps out of the closet. I told Bruce that was an awesome scene. I really loved it. So, yeah, I mean, again, I'm surprised it ranks so highly, but that has some sports action and some cops action. And so, yeah.
And it has that sarcastic humor that I love, and that plays a big part of it. Like the part where they're talking about his leather pants, and Bruce Willis is like, "How much are those pants?" He's like, $600 for a pair of pants. Does it come with a TV in it or something? Like, just that, that kind of humor. When he was talking to Halle Berry at the strip club, Bruce Willis was like, they play any good music here, and she's like, go put your head in the speaker, and you'll be singing. Play the funky music, white boy. Yeah, I'll be screaming. Just those little digs.
Now, doesn't that movie have the scene? And this might have caused the movie to drop down several pegs. But doesn't it have the scene where the football player is like running across the field and he pulls out a revolver and starts shooting people?
Yeah,
yeah, that's pretty awful. That was
Yeah.
a pretty awful scene.
well,
Was that at the end or was that in the
that was the
beginning?
beginning.
So at the end, doesn't somebody throw like a ridiculous throw the football or something?
Yeah.
And it's like really
Spoiler alert.
ridiculous.
I don't.
And
It's
I mean, I
Dame
remember
Wayans is
seeing
supposed
it
to be a quarterback in NFL, and he actually trained with the actual quarterback in the NFL to do the movie. So yeah, he threw a ball to knock the guy
out of the scaffolding or something
well,
like that.
not auto the
in the
scaffolding,
rain.
but Bruce Willis threw him down and then danced a jig and
Oh, that's right. I
Um,
forgot about that.
just had,
The big punchline at
I'll
the end.
dance a jig, right? Yeah. So,
As unbelievable as that scene was
spilled one
where
cup of piss.
the player's shooting players on the field, I probably would not put that past the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh, geez. Funny little fact about that is that when he kills himself, he says, "Ain't life a bitch?" But the original script was, "I'm going to Disneyland," and
that would have been much better.
and I don't know why they
Well, I
changed
mean, I
they
think
have a problem
Disneyland
with
probably frowned on
Right,
it,
Yeah, well,
but still, that's pretty awesome.
yeah. So I thought that was pretty funny, and the F word is used 102 times in that movie.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah, it might be another reason why I like it. All right.
All right. Tim, you got any comments on it, or should we move on to the next one?
I said what I had to say about it.
All right.
Number 3, little movie. You wanted some Matrix Keanu love. How about Point Break?
That's the movie they keep referring to in Avengers, and I don't think I've ever seen Point Break.
What?
What?
Yeah, I don't
Really?
think I've ever seen it.
You are one pathetic loser.
How do you not see Point Break? Like, that movie is amazing.
And especially at the time. I mean, that was huge. At the
Johnny
time.
Utah, Patrick Swayze, man. He was the man in that movie. Like, Gary Busey had a great role in it. There was a lot of action going on in it. It was like, I didn't like the remake where they made it all about extreme sports, but there was a lot of really extreme things going on and a lot of good action going on in that.
There's a lot of surfing in that movie.
There is some. I mean, they're surfers, so
There's some
there's
skydiving in
skydiving.
them.
There's skydiving.
It's weird. Like I have all these images in my head.
There's not
but-
like skydiving happens in the movie, but
Right.
it's not like, hey,
Yeah.
let's go skydiving tomorrow.
Right.
Right.
But
But the bank robbery scene was great in the beginning.
yeah, great chase scene.
Yeah.
The dead presidents. Just a lot of really.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you've never seen that.
Never saw Point Break.
Wow.
Yeah.
No Dark City, no Point Break.
I know,
crazy.
man. My list is growing.
And you
No
call
Bad
yourself a
Boys.
movie fan.
You know what I did just watch though recently? I think I might have texted you guys on this. I did watch Rocky Balboa for the first time and
Right.
really liked it a lot.
way,
So I could cross that off my list.
way to catch up.
There you go. All right.
All right, number 4. This one came out in 2014, and I had not the highest expectations for it. And I went to the movie theater, and I was cracking up laughing. And this movie blew me away. The Kingsman.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
I love the Kingsman.
Yeah, Sam Jackson I thought was brilliant in it. I thought he was super hilarious, and it kind of offset all the action that it had and all the cool gadgets that they had. And I just thought like zero expectations to just blown away and immediately up on my list and couldn't wait to actually see it again. And it was just as good the second time I watched it. So
My only complaint, I love the movie. I really did love the movie, but it's hard for me to watch again because of one scene.
is it the anal scene?
the church scene
Oh,
when they're just
Yeah.
slaughtering
Yeah.
each other, and the good guy, is it Lancelot? I don't know if it's Lancelot. That's it the name he went by? But he's just like slaughtering these people. And one of the things that kind of bugged me about it, not just the violence of it, but it was kind of there was a political statement there because everyone who had been gathered in the church were kind of right wing
Mhm.
conservatives, and here they're just slaughtering these right wing conservatives, and I'm like, are they trying to force this political message down my throat? Like, I don't know. There's just a lot about that church scene that really, really bothered me. First and foremost was just such extreme violence, and that's the only scene that I made. That's the reason why I haven't bought it on DVD, and I really haven't watched it again since I saw it in the theater. But
I will say politically, I think they tried to hit everybody though,
yeah,
because I mean, Obama's had
blows
pops.
up. Yeah,
and
taste the rainbow.
yeah, and I mean, I think it was a equal opportunity offender.
Yeah.
But yeah, that scene was pretty brutal. But
it was. I don't remember what I read about it, but I read something to the fact of like they went handheld or they went one continuous shot to really make you feel like you were in it and a part of it. And I think they did a great job with it, actually.
I think the staging of the fight scenes were right up there with like Jackie Chan flicks. Like
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
way they use props and stuff, man. I just thought it was spectacular.
Yeah.
this
Now, Kingsman 2, I did not love.
Yeah, I watched that on a plane when I was coming home from LA, and it was pretty weak. The Elton John stuff was bizarre, and
I never bothered to see it.
Yeah. Well,
Just,
even
just 'cause I
Julian-
heard the bad reviews.
Yeah.
but
Even Julian Moore, I thought was.
yeah.
it is this is also a comic book movie, by the way.
Kingsman? Did it
Yes.
originate in the funny pages?
Yep,
I
it
did
was
not
a
know that.
graphic novel.
Okay.
Did not know that either.
Hmm
No, I'll applaud your decision on this one. I really enjoyed it.
I did too.
Then we agree. And then I guess I'll round out with just one that's going to be on most people's list when they make them at home. I'm going to go with Lethal Weapon.
Okay.
Obvious one, but it needs to be there. Mel Gibson, Danny Glover, Mel Gibson breaking on the scene there. 83% on Rotten Tomato, came out in 87. And watching him, I wanted to be Martin Riggs, like a wisecracking, smart ass, badass. So,
You are.
yeah, I know. That's all because of him. Thanks, buddy. Yeah. So Busey doing his thing. Just great casting, great acting, great story.
Yeah, I agree. Lethal Weapon is on my list of 100 greatest movies ever made. And if we were to narrow this list down even further and talk about buddy cop flicks and stuff, Lethal Weapon would be right up there near the top. Even the sequels were great when Joe Pesci came onto the scene.
Whatever you want, Leo gets. Get it?
Don't ever go through the drive-thru.
But why,
That's
Joe?
that's not how it was said. That's not the quote, Joe.
No, he says don't ever go through the drive-thru, and they're like, why? Because they.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Yeah. But no, it's definitely one of the greatest buddy cop flicks ever made. And I'll agree with you on this one. Great action flick.
Because
Tim?
they in the drive-thru.
Yes, that's how it went. I have it as my number 7. And like I said, it's been a while since I've seen it. Again, not one that I bought or anything, but I remember seeing it at the theater. And I think it was a good kind of prototype for a lot of them that like followed buddy cop movie-wise and action movie-wise.
Like Bad Boys.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of them.
Mhm.
Got it. Do you have to say it like that?
Yeah.
Bad Boys.
I liked it the first time when it was called Lethal Weapon.
I mean, in Hollywood, you can say that about every stupid movie that comes out anymore. It's all a copy of something.
I agree.
Nothing original.
True.
All right, so did you do 5?
I did 5.
That's 5. All right, let's throw it over to Tim.
Welcome to the party, pal. I'm surprised that neither of you guys had my number 1 on your list, in your top 5. Die Hard, man.
Die Hard's in my top 10, but
Okay.
for reasons we discussed, it wasn't quite my top 5, but it's in my top 10. And I just watched it again the other day, and it's just freaking great.
I mean, it's another one that I haven't really watched in a long time, but I remember seeing it at the theater and just thinking, that it was great. Another one's that spurned a million copycats, but or spurred a million copycats, but yeah, I would definitely. Well, it's my number
Who
1.
are you then?
Just a fly in the ointment, Hans. A monkey in the wrench.
Get your bleep ready, Ryan.
Yes.
You have me at a loss. You know my name, but who are you? Just another American who saw too many movies as a child. Another orphan of a bankrupt culture who thinks he's John Wayne, Rambo, Marshall Dillon.
I was always kind of partial to Roy Rogers, actually. I really like those sequin shirts.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay.
There. Yeah. No, I agree with you. That's definitely one of the greatest
No, I
flicks ever
did
made.
go back and forth because is it a Christmas movie?
Bruce
Oh my
Willis
God.
has emphatically stated
I
during
know.
his recent roast,
I
it
know.
is not a Christmas
Here
movie.
we
know.
go.
It
Here
just-
we go.
There you go. Every
info,
time.
I know that info just came out this week.
Yeah.
It's number. It was on my top 10. It could have been my number 1. I didn't mention it just because to just kind of be different, to be honest, and throw a different list out there. But it is very high up on my list, and I don't want to say a Christmas tradition, but a yearly tradition, because I don't think it's a Christmas movie either. But great acting again, great taglines, great quotes, great everything. Like super awesome action.
When we did our greatest villains podcast, we only kind of glossed over Hans Gruber, but I think he's one of the greatest movie villains of all time.
Yeah.
And Bruce Willis just was. I mean, it made him a star. Made him a huge star.
It was great. Yeah, all the villains were pretty good. So.
Remember when he had to walk through the glass with his bare feet?
That was awesome.
That was awesome. But even that, like I just watched that scene again recently, and I don't know if it's because maybe I'm a little older now or because I've seen it so many times. I kind of started watching it from Hans Gruber's point of view, and I'm like, man, that guy's a genius. Like that was really smart of him to do. Like,
Oh yeah.
So-
He's always one step ahead of the
yeah,
authorities.
so
yeah.
it's good appreciation for that film.
All right, good one. What else you got?
Number 2 was Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Okay.
Number 3 was a movie that I saw at the theater, and I just remember being like on the edge of my seat like the whole time, just being like really invested in it. And it is The Fugitive with
Okay.
Han Solo.
It was a prequel to
Yeah.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when that movie came out, and people were blown away by it. I mean, there's so many Harrison Ford movies that could make
True.
anyone's top
That's true.
10. I mean, as I was looking at lists of action flicks, I came across Air Force One and
Yeah.
the Jack Ryan movies and stuff, man.
I just remember thinking from beginning to end, though, this was just, nonstop.
Yeah.
And, it was the first time I really noticed Tommy Lee Jones as an actor.
Me too.
And I thought he was amazing in it.
Yeah.
I agree. I thought Tommy Lee Jones was that's my first exposure to him, and I was a huge fan right away. I actually debated about putting this on my list also, and I kind of put it on, took it off, put it on, took it off. So I'm right there with you. I'm glad it's on your list so that I do get to talk about it. I thought it was a great movie, and I love when Tommy Lee Jones and when he's like, "I'm innocent, I don't care."
Right. That's
Yeah.
a great line.
Yep.
And if we ever were to do a list of movies based on TV shows, this would rank up near the top. It's one of the greatest movies that ever originated as a TV show. I mean, it was a
Yeah.
great movie. Yep.
I agree.
All right. Good one.
Okay, and my number 4 is one that I debated on because it kind of crosses the genre, and it is The Road Warrior.
That is number 6 on my list.
I just, I don't think I had seen Mad Max before I saw The Road Warrior, and I saw it on cable, and I just watch it over and over and over again. I own all 3 of them, and this is one that I can still watch and just from beginning to end and still really love.
Yeah. One of the greatest car chase sequences ever when he takes off in the semi-tanker truck and is chased by all the villains. One of the greatest movie moments of all time. If we ever get around to doing a car chase list, which I'm hoping to do soon, that would rank up near the top as one of the greatest movie car chases of all time. And again, when we talked about sequels, I felt like this sequel surpassed the original. I thought it was better than the original Mad Max.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. I think so, too.
I as a kid, I watched these. As an adult, I don't know. It falls short for me anymore. I just don't like the post-apocalyptic style, I guess. So, as a kid, I was
I know
never
you're a
in
bigger
love
fan
with
of
them.
Thunderdome. I know.
I
that.
am a fan of Thunderdome. Actually, that is my favorite. Give me that Tina Turner.
I don't hate Thunderdome.
But again, I think
but
it's
just
because
this is the best
the
one.
age that I was when that came out, kind of thing. So it
Right.
just kind of fit it hit the right timing for me. So
Just walk away.
Yeah, I love the movie, and it generated one of the greatest movie cars of all time, the V8 Interceptor. Yeah,
Mhm.
great flick.
I agree. My number 5 is a movie that was kind of off my radar. I did not see it at the theater, but I regretted it once I finally watched it on DVD or whatever I did, and it is John Wick. I was just not a huge Keanu Reeves fan, so I didn't think that I would like it, but I kept hearing, I saw the ratings for it on Rotten Tomatoes, and I kept hearing how great it was, so I finally rented it, and I was like, wow. I mean, a lot of times I'll get a movie now and I'll just be like, man, the first 15 minutes, it's hard for me to get through it. But I mean, this one just had me right from the beginning and kept me all the way to the end.
I think the sequel is like that too. Have
I
you
haven't seen the
sequel
sequel yet, no.
I think John Wick 2 is as good,
Really?
maybe even better than the first one. And they're in production on the third one. It should be coming out in 2019. And if it holds up to the first 2, I think this might go down in history as one of the greatest trilogies of all time. The first 2 were just that good.
Okay.
They were fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know why I never caught the second one yet, but I do plan on checking it out.
Yeah. Car chases, gunplay,
Just
Jackie Chan style,
fighting,
hand-to-hand combat. Yeah. It's great. I mean, can someone of Keanu Reeves' build dispatch bad guys as easily as he does in these movies? I'll leave that up to your imagination, but he sure does it convincingly. And again, it's just ultra over the top violence, which might be a little bit much for some people, but it's done in a way that's more comic booky. Like it's not like real world horror slasher violence. It's kind of comic booky violence, and it's so darn entertaining. Ryan, have you seen the John Wick movies?
I haven't, and I tried actually. I've heard good things about it, and
Well, you got that history with Keanu Reeves,
right,
so I can't blame you for not wanting to
freaking
support his
hate
movie.
Keanu, but um, yeah, when I met Keanu, he was a dick. So, anyways, no, everybody says how great this is, and I tried to watch it, but all my forums, it's not on, so it wasn't on HBO Go or Netflix or on demand or anything like that, and so I wasn't gonna pay to watch it, so I'll wait till it ends up on HBO, Netflix, or whatever. But I'm interested in seeing this. I am very surprised, and I find it very interesting that all three of us have a Keanu movie in our top 5 and a different one at that. So
Oh, yeah.
I never thought about Keanu as an action star,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think
Well,
he's the
look
only
at
actor.
Speed.
That's what he became.
mean,
Yeah, but
Speed was a little
right.
cartoony, but that's another one. I mean, that was a huge,
Right.
huge blockbuster.
yeah, but I don't know. I find it interesting that we all have a different Keanu movie.
Yeah. Yeah, he's right up there. All right. Is that your top 5?
That is my top 5.
All right. We touched on a couple movies that are on my next 5. We talked about The Road Warrior. We talked about Die Hard. So I'm going to bring up the movie that was number 1 on my comic book list.
Why so serious?
Now, like I said, a list of the greatest action flick movies can easily be an all comic book movie list because these comic book movies, like the Marvel Avengers movies and all that stuff, are just chock full of action. I just watched Captain America: Civil War recently, and I'm like, man, these action sequences are great. The fight scenes between the Avengers going toe to toe and the dialogue, the snappy dialogue between Captain America and Spider-Man. I'm like, man, this is a fantastic action sequence. So most comic book movies could qualify as great action flicks, but I kind of whittle it down, and I thought, okay, if I'm going to include one comic book movie in the greatest list of a list of greatest action flicks, it's going to have to be the greatest comic book movie of all time, in my opinion, The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight again has all the elements of a great action flick with car chases and all sorts of stuff, but it's also very cerebral and makes you think about good versus evil. And so I had to include this on my top 10, The Dark Knight. And then, well, I'll let you guys comment on that. Ryan, what are your thoughts of The Dark Knight on my top 10?
I disagree solely because of it being a comic book movie. I can't say anything bad about the movie, or it's a great action flick, but it's a comic book movie to me.
Right.
So that's why I left it off my list.
Tim?
Yeah, exactly what Ryan said. Great movie, but I didn't put superhero movies on my list.
Okay.
If I did put a superhero movie on my list, it would have been Punisher Warzone
Okay.
or action movies.
Next up, this is a movie. Geez, whenever it's on TV, I find myself sitting down and watching it. I just love this movie. And again, it has all the elements that make up a great action flick.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
RoboCop, in my opinion, one of the greatest sci-fi flicks, greatest cop flicks, and definitely one of the greatest action flicks ever made. Absolutely love RoboCop. Again, I remember this visceral experience of seeing it in the theater and having really low expectations. I'm like, how good can a movie be called RoboCop? And I remember seeing the cardboard display in the theater lobby at Showcase Cinema, and I'm like, that looks awful. And I sat there in the theater and was just blown away. I'm like, I love the humor in it, the dark humor, the commentary, social commentary. The movie just blew me away and became one of my all-time favorite movies of all time. That's kind of redundant, but Ryan, your thoughts on RoboCop?
I don't really like RoboCop. Maybe I should revisit it now that I'm older. Because I saw it, would it come out in like 1987 or something
Yeah,
like
I
that?
think 87.
So I was kind of young, and it just wasn't my style, wasn't my thing back then. And I never came back to it. So I know everybody in Detroit loves it and want to put a statue down there and everything, but
Not even though a single frame wasn't even filmed in Detroit, which
right.
ticks me off.
So again, maybe just because when it came out and the type of movie it was when it came out, it wasn't my thing, and I have not revisited it in a very, very long time.
Tim, do you think RoboCop belongs on this
Sure.
list?
Yeah. I do, but I did not put it on my list. And same thing with you. I saw it at the theater, and I had low expectations, and I really did like it. And I don't think I ever bothered to see the sequels, or maybe I did. I don't remember. But yeah, it's good. Good action movie. And as far as the statue goes, I don't know. I mean, does it really portray Detroit in that great of a light
No.
to where they would want
They want to
to
basically
erect a
bulldoze
statue
it.
for
And
it?
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. Old Detroit was
Yeah.
just, they wanted to build something new over the top of it. So,
Right.
yeah, I don't understand why Detroiters have embraced this movie. I mean, I
I
love
don't
it,
either.
but a statue in Detroit, whatever. It's a
Yeah.
photo op. If it brings tourists, okay.
I just
Yeah,
want to put
I
my
doubt it.
Mustang
I
next
doubt
to it.
it.
That's right. And then finally on my top 10, again, I wrestled with this, and I know I already have an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie on here, but I had to complete my top 10 list with Predator. Again, Predator covers a lot of different genres. It's sci-fi. Some people might look at it as a war picture. But I absolutely love the simplicity of Predator, that you got this alien hunter who wants to be challenged, taking down the special elite forces in the jungle, and it's so simple, it's so basic, but it's so entertaining. And watching Arnold try to outsmart and go toe to toe with the Predator, I think, is just such a great movie moment. Great lines. I should have downloaded. What's his name? The wrestler,
Jesse
Governor
Ventura.
Jesse Ventura. Yeah, I ain't got time to bleed. Well, that's one of my all-time favorite movie lines, and there's so many good lines in that movie, and just not only one of my favorite action flicks, but one of my favorite movies of all time. Ryan, Predator, yay or nay?
I'll allow it. I considered it on my top 10. It would have been lower down on the list for me, but I always enjoyed the movie growing up, and I liked Jesse the Body, and the Predator was really scary and cool, and that thermo heat thing always was impressive when I was a child.
Yeah, he was a game changer. Tim, Predator, yeah.
Yeah, Predator's a fantastic movie, but again, I didn't. It's not what I think of when I think of action movies. So
Yeah.
I did not have it on my top 10, but great movie. Yes,
Ryan,
I love it. I own it.
what else is on your list that we haven't discussed? Anything you want to throw out?
Yeah, of course there is. Don't be ridiculous. There's a couple that are like, I have one on here that I could make an argument against myself that it shouldn't be on here, and that's Kill Bill, because that could be more martial arts, I guess, than action. But I thought this movie was genius. I thought it was really well made, and that nurse whistle is just bone chilling. So great job with that.
Yeah, I keep waiting, and I don't know if we'll ever see this, but I keep waiting for Quentin Tarantino to edit both movies together into a watchable one long movie with part one and part two. But yeah, the scene where they're what is it? Was it the crazy
Crazy 88s.
Yeah, that scene, the way it was filmed in silhouette and everything
Yeah.
was just art. Like that was just poetic, and it was art, and it's just so many great moments in that movie. In both of them, I enjoyed both of them. Some people say the first one's better than the second one, but I think both of them together is a great movie.
So I have a question that I don't, because this is your area. Did they make a car for this?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Not in the little scale, but in the larger scales, they did. As a matter of fact, I was in Vegas recently, and I went in to Johnny's Toy Shack in Las Vegas, and he had one sitting on the shelf, and I thought about from Pawn Stars. They had one sitting on the shelf, and I thought about buying it, but then I figured I'd have to get that through security on the way home, and I didn't feel like the hassle. So I will add it to my collection eventually. But yeah, they did do diecast vehicles from Kill Bill.
Cool. Then another one that is not on a lot of people's list, but I again had low expectations, or I didn't know what to think when I was going in to watch it, and I absolutely fell in love with the movie. V for Vendetta.
Never saw it.
Really?
Never saw it.
You should watch that. It was a really good movie. Again, I had low expectations, and just walked out of it going, man, that was really, really good.
See, that's one that I own, and I've gotten through about 20 minutes of it, and I don't know. I'm just never in the mood to watch it.
Wow.
I bought it with Watchmen. It's a split disc, but and I've heard a lot of people tell me how much they love it, and I can't watch it.
I remember seeing trailers.
Maybe because of Natalie Portman and
Yeah.
the bad feelings that I have towards her for ruining the prequels.
I remember being intrigued by the trailers, and then it started getting pretty middling reviews, and I thought, I don't know if I want to waste my money on it, so I never got around to seeing it. It looked interesting, but just never got around to
I'll
it.
make myself. I'll put toothpicks in my eyes, and I'll force myself to watch the whole thing.
Right after
One day.
Godfather.
Right.
Another one on my list that I put on here, just I could probably pick other movies that I actually enjoy more, but I really enjoyed this because I had zero expectations again, was Jack Reacher.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this is Mission Impossible with, but not. So I was like, give me a break. But then I went and watched it, and I again walked away going like, wow, that was really good. Like I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that movie. So
And it did well, too, at the box office. It was one of those surprising movies where,
yeah,
Tom Cruise was risking that same rock fatigue, and then this
Mhm.
movie comes out of nowhere, and people are like, hey, this is actually a pretty good action flick.
yeah. So I wanted to just bring it up, even though, like I said, I could probably make a case for other movies instead. Again, I had Die Hard on my list, so I think that's pretty much my list. I also threw Top Gun on there. It was on a couple people's lists, but I could see that's debatable. But the fight scenes with the jets, I thought was pretty intense action.
I get it. Tim, we only got a few minutes left. Anything you want to throw out that we didn't talk about?
Sure. My number 6 is Desperado. At the time I hadn't seen El Mariachi. Not that you really need to, but the person that I went to see it with was a huge Antonio Banderas fan, and it worked out because I was a huge, and still am a huge, Salma Hayek fan. So
Yes.
I really liked it. I thought that a lot of the scenes were really unique with how they did the fight scenes, and I mean it's pretty much a shoot 'em up, but just the whole them carrying their weapons around in their guitar cases and stuff like that, I thought was cool.
Yeah.
Number 7 was Lethal Weapon. Number 8, and I debated on this one, but I really love this movie, Inception.
That's an action flick? I don't recall.
I think so.
I don't know if I would describe that one as.
I think so.
It was
I
more of a
saw it
there was
on
a lot
a
of
couple
action.
lists. I saw it on a couple lists.
There was a lot of
Huh,
action going
okay.
on with
I saw it.
what's the guy's name? The kid's name? Well, he's not a kid, but the one that was on Third Rock from the Sun. That whole thing where
Oh, right.
he was fighting all those guys, and the room was turning
Okay.
sideways.
All right.
Yeah.
Jordan Gordon, Joseph Levitt,
Joseph
or-
Gordon-Levitt, yeah.
backwards.
I don't know. I saw that movie once. I was indifferent. I was like, it was all right. But I saw it after all the hype. So.
My number 9 is a French movie that came out in 2001, and I think I made you go see it with me, Brotherhood of the Wolf. And this is another one that's a little bit, it bends genres, but, there's martial arts, there's monsters, but I really like this movie a lot. I don't know if you remember it.
No, I don't.
You actually saw it with me.
A French movie? What are you, Rich Rollins over here?
Well, I think you and I had seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and then I was like, well, this one looks cool too. But
Okay.
anyway, and number 10 is Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it needed to be mentioned.
Yeah. No, I agree. I
Absolutely.
agree. Real
I
quick,
mean, it's kind of the template.
I'm surprised you
for
didn't mention the
80s action
Warriors.
movies.
You did the line from the Warriors at the very beginning, and
I ended up
love the Warriors.
Yeah, I had it on there originally, and I ended up scratching it at the end.
I love it. That's on my honorable mention.
Yeah, the Warriors
list.
is awesome.
Other honorable mentions: Big Trouble in Little China, Total Recall, and I just watched this again the other day, and I just absolutely loved it. The very first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, I thought, was an excellent action flick. Lots of good stuff happening in there.
I agree.
So there you go. That is our list of our favorite action flicks of all time.
Hasta
And,
la vista, baby.
And you guys brought it again. Thanks, guys. And thank you for listening to Movies for Dumb Guys. We'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.